Thank you, Patrick, for, in a very comprehensive way, explaining the core and the comprehensive networks, which at the same time raising questions indirectly for discussion later. Is it up to the EU to draw maps and to kind of design the European transport network? You said ESPO had difficulties in convincing everybody. I'm sure there will be questions later on that. Second important point, the money. Where does it come from? Are member states still capable to finance things today with budgets being in difficulties? Quite important. And then the second element of your speech, the new port policy. A lot of questions will come up there. You were a bit controversial yourself by calling nautical services of general interest, which is a big question mark. But anyway, a lot of material for discussion later. Francesco, you take over now.
Yes, I just would like to introduce Mr. Paolo Costa. He doesn't need any introduction. He has been a very good minister, and he is now exceptionally good president of the Port Authority. We will hear his presentation on public-private partnerships in planning and building port infrastructures. I think he will make some, produce some cases. He is also a university professor, so I think he will be short and very clear. And then we will open a short discussion. We have to gain some time. Bullet questions from the floor are welcome, but I think we all should reduce a little bit the timing. Mr. Costa, please, President.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks to all of you for giving me this opportunity to address such a distinguished audience. When I was asked to talk about public partnership regarding port infrastructure, I decided not to talk theoretically about it. At least in this country, at least in Italy, we have been talking about that since many, many years. And every time trying to imagine that the cake would be good. So my idea was just to give you an example of a cake we are beginning to eat. I don't say we have already eaten. We are beginning to eat it. And to see how to explain you very, very shortly, very briefly, which are the difficulties, how we balance the situation. As you know, the origin of the discussion about the PPP has many theoretical reasons, but the main reason is that we realized at a certain point in time that there was not anymore enough public money to finance the infrastructure. And so we have to find a different way to finance them without totally losing the public control on this infrastructure, but combining the fact that the private was putting the money. So we had to do the things in this way. For putting in, I don't have to put my example in a European framework because already Alphonse and Patrick gave enough things. But I want to recall you that normally when we talk about investment in infrastructure, from a macroeconomic point of view, we think to two different things. One is that from a macroeconomic point of view, from the government point of view, we need some investment because it is a way of supporting aggregate demand. It's just the fact that we spend money. We spend money in construction. The construction have a multiplier effect and the economy is going better. So everybody says is happy if we have more. But it doesn't matter where and how and which one. There is no importance. Totally different is the approach in which we have some specific target. In our case, for instance, in Europe now, we are looking for investment as a tool of integrating the single European market, because if we integrate the single market, we assume that we will get better economies of scale. Better economies of scale means more productivity, more competitivity, and so boosting the European economy. For the first time, that's what Patrick said, when talking about the main infrastructure suggested by the European Commission, that's what happened a few days ago, for the first time we have a list of ports. We have something more specific. It's not yet enough. Port is not totally involved. We are The Trans-European network are still railways and some roads and inland waterways. But now there are some ports. This is an example, the few ports selected as in Italy for belonging to the 83 ports considered as of priority level in Europe. So, but the good news is that ports are there. So we can imagine that in the near future, when we will talk about how to realize them, how to implement this policy within the two target time, 2020-2030, even the port will be on the table. So there will be some possibility to do that. Okay, so it is within this framework that we have to address the problem of financing this kind of infrastructure. The situation is very simple. There is a lack of public funds, and even if Europe is trying to define different possibilities and tools, grants, loans, like the launching of the project bonds, for instance, loan guarantees and other tools that could be somehow helping in financing. So using, I would say, to reduce the quantity of public money used, but anyhow, to put some public money in the process. And then there are private money. But of course, as everybody knows, private money is very easy. Easy, I cannot say very easy. Is a little bit, is possible to find when we are talking about so-called hard works. That is, when we are talking about something that could be under concession, because at the end of the day, it's the user who's paying, and then we know that we can recover the money from the user, and then the private investor is only somebody who intermediate, is advancing some money, and surely will recover that. It's much more difficult when we are talking about the so-called availability PPP. That is something in which the infrastructure is not necessarily directly paid by the user, and so there is still, once again, some public entities has to produce some revenues or produce some tax breaks or some other ways for repaying you in this situation. Okay, the example that I give you is the most simple. In a sense, is one regarding the construction of a Ro-Ro terminal, which is supposed to be a hot investment in the sense that the private investor who accepted, who proposed, and then who won the competition, the tender, and it is now realizing that, is assuming that it will be repaid by the user of the terminal. The terminal we're talking about is one of the two investments that in Venice we are doing for reclaiming and reutilizing some of the big industrial area of Marghera. And I'm talking about the lower one, the terminal for motorways of the sea, the Ro-Ro terminal. There will be a new other container terminal, but it's something which is, will not talk about that. It is because, as I'll say a few words later on, is much more, I would say, important project, but is still to be defined. On the contrary, the Motorways of the Sea terminal project is already in the pipeline. This was the land as it used to be before there was a land which was used, but you see, partially used for industrial, was an aluminum plant. And it will be transformed in a big, I would say, terminal with 4 berths for 4 ships contemporarily, with 26 hectares of land around, 10 hectares of water surface in front of it, could be used to 12 meters of water depth. What is more important is it will be a separation, is 2 terminals, one Schengen and non-Schengen, because we will also use, will be rope access and also some passengers there. It will be utilize more than 10 kilometers of lanes or rolling on and off operation. There are 2 train tracks with the European standard, more than 750 meters, and there are also buffer areas, logistic areas, and so on. So that's for us at least, well, it is a very important investment. We began, that's the public part, we assure to the terminal a dedicated port to motorway roads in 5 kilometers, and will take no more than 15 minutes from there, but completely separate from the rest of the traffic. There will be a dedicated rail access, which the possibility to reach the line to Milan and France, to Verona and Germany, and towards Udine and Austria. We are doubling the connection from the road terminal and the main railway station, which is Mestre, and from there to distribute them everything. As you can see for a moment, we got some public money, European and Italian money, for doing some of these things, but we prepare the environment. So we can say to the private investor, be sure that we will dredge all the canals in front of you, and then you'll get road and rail ready for your use when you begin your operation. So that's the main point that I want to suggest to you. How we subdivided the cost of investment, and so how we balance the two investments. The total cost will be 243 million euro, and you can see the Venice Port Authority is putting 13 million in for the acquisition of the estates, because we bought the land, because it was a private land from the industry. The government gave us many years ago, when there used to be a port infrastructure fund. That's perhaps you know that's it's totally disappeared since a few years. But when we had some money from there, so we got 28 million euro to use just for this, for dredging, for the berthing, and for preparing, I would say, the sea part of the investment. And we got 6.3 million euro from the EU, 5 million for the, I would say, the structural funds that the Veneto region gave to us for completing the dredging and the bank preparation of the other things, and 1.3 million from the 10T project for the railway that we prepared. So you can see the private accepted this investment, assuming to put in 80% of the cost. So my first answer to the situation is it is possible to find, it would be crazy to ask that there will be zero public money, but with 20% of the cost, you can go there. You can find somebody who say, yes, we can do in this direction. How was the situation? Which were the conditions given to the private investor? He has a long-term contract. Of course, he was granted according to the law, so there was he was a promoter, then there was a tender, there was a complicated, I would say, procedure, but we went through that, and that's it. He agreed to design, build, finance, and operate the new sea terminal and logistic platform. At the end, we agreed on a concession very long term, 40 years, but we decided every 5 years we can revise some condition which is already in the contract from the beginning, not anything that can be new. We impose at least a equity part of the investment at least 40 million. So we didn't. So we don't allow too much leverage on their own investment. At the end and because we expected that they will have, according to our computation, a payback period 26 years. So we have a concession of 40 and 26 of the payback for the investment. So there is plenty of room for making profit starting from the 27th year on. We estimated a rate of internal of 9.34, and so very enough for being accepted by the banks that they have to supply the rest of the money. So 40 to 196 and 156 million euro has been supplied by the banks. As for the Port Authority, we calculated that combining fixed and variable fees, the investment will, in the long run, in the 40 years, give us 157 million euro. And that's why we decided to discuss how to distribute the risks among the private investor and the private and the public one. So it is clear that the construction risk will be on the shoulders of the private investor. The availability risk, of course, is his own shoulder, yes, as soon as he can give us the terminal, the sooner the better for everybody. But we share the demand risk. And we share in this way. We decide that, we assume that, that it will be, we calculate that 1,000 ship call per year will be, well, a very good, I would say, point of equilibrium. Starting from then, they make profit. So we decide that we went the other way around. But also for us, it would be very important to have a larger number of calls than there. So we decide that we have that the fees that the public investor is paying to the Port Authority will decrease as soon as they will reach 950 target. So up to the 950 call per year, they will pay the full fee. Starting from there, there will be a decreasing in incremental fees in order to let them profit from their own investment and for the risk that they take for waiting for that level and so on. This was the effect of a long discussion, of course, among us. The negotiation was not so easy, but at the end, in my view, it looks like to be fairly acceptable. Well, this is is now, you know, I used to say that there are two phases for any infrastructure investment. There is the paper phase and the brick phase. Normally in Italy, when the paper phase is finished, you assume that it's done. We are exactly in that situation. The paper phase has been completed. We are now on the brick phase. Of course, there is only possibility to see some paper re-emerge in discussion on the implementation of the project. But that's what I hope that this is doing. As far as I'm concerned, I can say that for us, it looks like to be a good cake. It's such a good cake that we decide to begin to prepare the second project. The project is connected with having a new terminal container, which is a little bit visionary because it will be served by an offshore terminal 8 miles outside of the port of Venice. This is a very complicated project, which is a degree of magnitude higher than the previous one. We are talking about 2.5 billion euro in this case. I don't know if the time we are foreseeing as far as the finance worldwide is going on will allow us to do that. But this is just a cake that we are looking at. It's not yet tasted. I hope to be able to taste with you this one next year when we will be finished to prepare all the paper for launching the tender for see if somebody would be so crazy to accept to come and build and operate this new terminal. Thank you very much.